direction that all the questions are going to take.
Okay.
So, do you want to kick it off?
Sure. So the first is, what factors can you contribute to low employee turnover rating that Nordstrom has achieved over the past few years?
Well, I mean, I think our culture and our world is changing now as the job market changes, as there's different environments that people work in. I think, at the end of the day, creating an environment where there's a lot of transparency, people understand what the goals are and what the objectives are every day. Creating an environment where there's a team atmosphere. People tend to like to be a part of a team and know that they're part of something bigger. And then, of course, for our sales side, which is our biggest employment force, being able to make money, be profitable, giving them the tools that they need so that they understand how to be better salespeople and how to make better relationships and build relationships with customers. It's a big part of our sales strategy, so that they can sell more and they can actually make more money, because that's kind of why we're all working, right?
No, of course.
That's true. That is true. Going to go next.
So our second question here is, could you describe the culture within the store? How's the camaraderie between different associates as well as management? And is there like a family type atmosphere? Do you guys have functions, things along those lines?
I like to think so. Obviously I'm the store manager, so you always want that.
Of course.
You hope for that. We're interesting in the fact that this store is only 5 years old, and Boston is our newest market. We've been in Boston for about 8 years. We opened Natick about 8 years ago. Nordstrom is an old company. It's been around since 1901, but we've only been this far northeast for just less than a decade at this point. So, I think really as we try to build a culture and try to infiltrate what that culture that came from those stores that started in Seattle, many years back, and what that means to our customer, how that relates to our customer here in the Northeast and in the Boston market. I think it's really just been about trying to teach people who never even maybe knew what Nordstrom was and didn't shop at Nordstrom growing up, like somebody who lived in California may have, or somebody who lived in, even like the Midwest or even a little further south on the East Coast than we are. Just trying to get them to understand what the company is about, and that we're service first, and that we really put high value on our people, and we put high value on the customer, and trying to get them to really understand that and to grow from that. On a store level, I think we are kind of in more of a mid-range store level. I think the smaller the stores are, the easier it is to build that family atmosphere. It gets a little trickier as the stores start to get bigger and bigger. And it does feel like we have a pretty good family atmosphere within the store. We have people who have been here, since close to opening, if not opening the store. And then we have, you kind of have your core group of people that stay and that have been here the longest. And then you have other people, maybe they're students who come through and work for time periods and then move on to their careers or whatever it is they want to do, or they maybe move on to other opportunities. But I think all in all, there's a pretty good family environment, and I think that's what we teach, and we hope that we are all here to help make each other better, and that we're better at what we do as a team, and that it's not just about the individual. It's how can we be better as a team in order to help us to have better results individually.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, so what methods does management use to communicate with employees?
Mostly it's verbal, quite honestly. We try to do everything we possibly can do on the sales floor. So we have some pretty good systems and programs in place to where we can share results. We have iPads. We talk about results on the floor typically, unless it's a more difficult conversation and we need to have, if it's a productivity problem and we need to have a different type of a conversation, that does take place off the floor. But mostly it's verbal, hopefully in the moment. We talk about being, giving instantaneous feedback and being really upfront with what it is that we expect out of our people, and how to achieve what we expect. So it's mostly verbal. There's some email, and then we also have tools available to the team that they can seek out, through whether they want to pull up their iPads and use their iPads as a tool to look at product knowledge, or learn about something maybe specific that's new to their department. But mostly it's on the floor, teaching and coaching.
Beautiful. Are there any issues regarding the communication between employees currently? And if so, how do you believe management could help resolve that?
I don't know. I think the only issues that you run into in the retail world, and like it's a little bit tricky sometimes, is with the way schedules are and the fact that we're not a 9 to 5, 5 day a week operation. I think you always have those times when maybe a manager doesn't see one of their people for a few days because maybe they're off one day and then their salesperson's off the next day and then they're off the next day. So I think that's the only time that communication can become muddled. Or if you don't have an effective leader who's not taking that communication back to their team, and I think you see that sometimes with newer leaders, or just people that that you just learn as they get into management roles if that's not what their calling is.
Absolutely. Now, you did mention as far as like performance-based statistics go for the employees. Are all the metrics made available to them? Do they know where they're at in comparison to, let's say, territory, districts, so on and so forth?
Yeah, there's probably more visibility into that than there's ever been as we continue to evolve with technology and everything. We have pace setter goals, so we have our employees. They know if they sell a certain benchmark, then they move into a different commission rate, so that they can try to achieve better results for themselves.
So there's different incentives in that regard.
And that's something that's communicated usually on a bi-monthly basis. They usually get that communication so they know where they're at and they're able to track it. They also have access to those tools on their own at the registers and so forth to where they can see, sometimes I think we find we set goals for our people and they've probably got higher goals set for themselves.
Of course.
I think when you're in sales, you kind of know how much you need to sell to pay your rent, to pay that car payment, to do all the things that we all know what our bills are. So they have the ability, they have very clear transparency into seeing where they're at, and then also knowing where they need to be. And if they're not meeting their metrics, then those are usually further conversations. And there's hopefully there's some help there for them to hey, if this is where you're struggling, this is what we can do to help you out. If they are just not seeming to get it, and maybe it's just not the right job for them, then they pretty much have the numbers to know what they need to do to move.
That's awesome. And you guys typically have new employees, let's say shadow, veterans, to kind of help them with their sales pitches, and just the overall fluidity of, how they present themselves?
A little bit, and we're actually changing our onboarding structure right now some. Typically we've always kind of been a jump in there and just go for it kind of organization. Just go at it. Here are your resources. For sure, if you see that top seller on your floor, that's the guy you want to be hanging around on the floor and listening to when they're talking to their customers. And we work in pretty small environments to where they're able to do that, and they're really able to get exposure to those people. Now, our department managers are what we call selling managers, so they have selling expectations as well. And the purpose of that is because if they're going to be teaching something and they're going to be helping to develop somebody, then they need to be sharp and they need to be able to do it themselves. So that's who they shadow, is their selling manager, so their department manager.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay, so all right. So what motivates you as upper management that keeps you happy at work?
I mean, I think obviously if the numbers are good, then that makes you happy. You want to walk out of here and know that you're having good business. For me, I love the people side. So I like knowing that I've worked with Chris to get him to a certain place, and we've helped to develop you, and then you're ready to go into that next job and you're ready to take that next big step. I think for me that's the biggest satisfaction, is knowing that you've taught somebody something and you've helped them to be better at contributing back to growing their career and hopefully being prosperous and growing and all the good stuff that we want our people to do.
Awesome. Where are we here? What current issues does Nordstrom experience with teamwork, if any? And as upper management, what do you do to kind of motivate those employees? Or is teamwork, obviously in a commission-based sales environment, teamwork isn't the biggest emphasis, but what are your thoughts?
Issues with teamwork? I don't know as a whole if we have an issue, but I think, it just really depends on the floor. I think sometimes you can have sales floors in stores even where maybe there's just an even more competitive sales environment, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because usually, if you're working with a bunch of competitive people, it tends to make you more competitive, and in the end it makes you better. But I think anytime that you are working with commission-based salespeople, they, at the end of the day, they come to work to sell things because that's how they get paid, and they get paid on the more stuff they sell. So I think anytime you have a commission-based sales environment, there's always a little bit of, make it more about the team and not just about you.
Yeah.
And Nordstrom's done some interesting things, and we're always looking at different ways, and especially now as we look at different generations coming up and how can we stay relevant to these generations, and really continue to bring people in and bring fresh blood into the company as we grow. And we've looked at different ways to even maybe there's certain departments that we don't put on a commission basis. Maybe we put them on a different type of sales plan. Maybe we put them on a group sales plan. So I think that we're always looking and interested in different ways that maybe we can stay relevant and keep that team environment going. And really how we overcome that is, I think, we have lots of tasks that are in place that if the team isn't doing them as a whole, then the sales of the individual are going to suffer.
Of course.
For example, if we don't size a rounder, then it's going to be harder for them to find that size when they go to that rounder, and they're going to spend more time looking for that medium shirt. Whereas if everybody's doing their part and doing their tasks, then hopefully it means that we're also being more profitable as we try to sell and more efficient.
Absolutely.
So I think just relating it back to how does it relate back to you, and how does it affect you, and why is it important for you to be a part of this team and to do your part.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
So I know you already talked about the commission-based, but are there any other incentive programs for employees, management?
I mean, management is bonused on their performance for their departments. Incentives for employees. I mean, there's different things that happen all the time. I mean, we have vendors that come in and do contests. We have, there's always sort of something fun and interesting depending on the department. So, you may have, maybe Burberry comes in and says, you know what, you guys have been doing really good. If you sell, 5 Burberry watches in December, then you get one. We're going to give you one free. So there's different things that vendors a lot of times will do. As far as the company, I mean, we always do fun little contests and things like that. But I mean, the main way that somebody's going to make their bread and butter is by selling more and building relationships with their customers.
Absolutely. Does your company have a heavy focus on evaluations? So obviously you get your annual performance reviews, but does management, let's say on a monthly, quarterly, or maybe a semi-annual basis, go over the performance of an individual?
It's always, we're always looking at, I think we have the tools in place right now to where we can give real-time feedback. So really bi-monthly, we have numbers to say how you did for like the first half of the month, how you did for the second half of the month. And hopefully what we're doing with that is we're able to say, you blew it out the water. You had a great pay period. Hopefully you're seeing that in your check and you're happy.
Yeah.
But then also there's the other side of that, to where if we know we have people on our floors that aren't productive, we're able to look into that and say, okay, why aren't they productive, and what can we do to make them productive? Because it doesn't do us any good for them to be here and not be productive, and quite frankly, it doesn't do them any good to be here and not be productive. So it's not like necessarily a written evaluation that they get every month, but we do have follow-up that happens pretty consistently, because that's, the managers should be on the floor. They should know their people very well.
Absolutely.
And be having those conversations so that, we're either, hopefully we're coaching you up into a better place.
That might be it. Just on the side of evaluations with your company, is it more based, so if someone isn't performing, would you get rid of them? Or if you had bottom performers in the company, would you fire them or try and increase their value?
I think we're always,
teaching?
I mean, it's, let's face it, we live in a world where it's expensive to train people. It's expensive to bring people, in and to, we always, if we liked you enough to hire you, we want to find a way to make it work. And we certainly don't see people as expendable, and we want to find a way to make you profitable for yourself as well as for the company. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if it's a sales job and you're not able to perform the functions of the job, then it's not the right fit. So we're not gonna, we're not gonna spend more time than not. But there's a lot more there's a lot of tools in place to help get the people where they need to be, more so than us just saying,
So, yeah.
you're not gonna
Yeah.
cut it.
Okay. I think you could tweak. I mean, you could ask that one.
As far as upper management goes, what is your schedule kind of look like? Are you always accessible to the different employees if they have a grievance or anything like that? Is there always somebody available, or is it
Within the store, you
how is
mean?
it? Yeah, within the store.
Yeah, I mean, we have what we call an open door policy here. So that's Nordstrom wide, and there've been case studies on that and everything. So it's no secret that we work really hard to be accessible to everybody possible. So I try not to shut my door unless it's a important meeting or something that I have to have an individual conversation with someone. But I have salespeople come into my office all the time and talk to me about whether or not it's their performance and trying to find ways to be better, or if they're having individual concerns with even their department managers or things along those lines. We work really hard to be out on the floor. I'm happiest when I'm out on the floor. I do not like to be in that office with the door shut. Like, that's usually, I don't like to stare at the computer. I don't like, the more I can be out on the floor with the people and really hopefully contributing some to their success, that's a good day for me. So yes, we try to be very accessible. And same thing with HR, like we have lots of resources, and we encourage everybody to find mentors within the store. So if there's another department manager that's maybe not their own, but they see something in them that they want to kind of grow to be like, by having a relationship with them, and we're small enough to where we can do that, and we can hopefully foster some relationships that way.
And just a little side question: how many employees roughly work in the store?
Depends on the time of the year, but generally around a couple hundred.
Okay.
You can give or take. And there's different, we have sales side, and then we also have a lot of support people that work in our store too. I know we've talked a lot about sales, but it takes a lot of support people to run an operation like this. You got to get, the product comes in every night on a truck. You got to get it opened up and put it on the floor and processed through. We have 2 restaurants in the store. We have people who clean, of course, every night. We have a visual department that does all of our windows and does all the visual cues throughout the store. So there's a lot more that goes into it than just the selling side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of a question for you. Have you moved up through the company, or did you come in from the outside?
Nordstrom is the hire from within company. So pretty much, the great thing about that is pretty much that anybody who's in my job or my department manager's jobs or, my boss, we've all kind of started in the same place. And most of us, it was either in a stock room or on a sales floor. I started on the sales floor at one of our stores in Dallas, Texas, and I, sold just like everybody else did, and I went through the same struggles that these salespeople go through today, and I had some of the same challenges. They have a lot better technology and more resources, quite frankly, now to where they could be more successful. But yeah, everybody kind of starts in the beginning of their careers in the same place, so it makes it nice because you can relate to kind of everybody who's around you.
Yeah.
And it's, I can have an actual conversation with a salesperson and they can tell me about a situation they may be having, and quite frankly I can probably relate to it because I've been there.
Now, how long have you been with the company?
I've been here about 8 years.
Okay.
So did you start here roughly right after it opened?
No,
At
I
Big
actually
Star?
started in Dallas, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there for quite a few years in different roles in a couple different stores down there, and then I came out to the Northeast to be a regional merchandiser for our men's furnishings division. And I lived in New Jersey at worked at our Paramus store there. But at that time I traveled throughout these stores in the Northeast, and this was one of my stores that I would come visit. And then I went to be a rack store manager, at our rack division.
Yeah.
Down in the DC area, and then I came up here to manage the store.
Very nice.
So, do you have any others you can think of?
No, you've been great. You've been able to answer our questions perfectly. No yes or no answers. That's what we wanted.
Appreciate
We're a
it.
pretty open book. I mean, there's lots of books that have been written and things about, what we do. And at the end of the day, I think it's just really about, we just want to make customers feel good when they walk out of here. And we know a lot of that has to do with how happy our employees are that are working here. And we try to be transparent and open with what that success model looks like. And at the end of the day, we want happy people so that they're making other people happy.
Now, speaking on customer satisfaction, do you guys have a rating system? So, a lot of retailers, you get the receipt, it's a quick survey you can do, on the website or something along those lines. Does Nordstrom implement any of those tools?
We do. We work with a company that does that. It's the same company that probably does it for most other retailers.
Yeah.
It's a great tool. We use it as a resource. It's not the end-all be-all because it's just a pretty small sample, but it does help. As a store manager, I can usually tell if we have trends, and if I'm seeing, these surveys come back and they, I've seen 5 surveys in a week that may say, the service is too pushy or something. I'm just generic, and then I have a pretty good scope on, okay, maybe we need to look at this department and reel things back a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have multiple ways that we've kind of put our pulse out there and try to get a feeling for what the customer's response is. And quite frankly, we live in a day and age where it's super easy to get feedback from customers, and they are happy to give it. They'll send it to you through Facebook, they'll tweet about it, they'll put it on Yelp. So we have lots of ways that we hear from our customers in addition to just sort of the traditional ways of them picking up a telephone or responding, to
an email or something.
Absolutely. Now, speaking about social media, does Nordstrom's presence on social media, is that handled at the store level, corporate level? Like, do you guys have your own individual, let's say Facebook or Twitter?
We do. We do both.
Okay.
So on a store level, we have our own Facebook page. We have Instagram is kind of our big one. I think we find in fashion people really respond to Instagram because it's more about the picture than anything. Yeah. So yes, it's Nordstrom SSP for South Shore Plaza. So if you want to,
we'll follow.
If you want to follow us. But yeah, and really what we try to do with that is just focus on what's, we'll usually put a couple pictures on there a day of, kind of products we're focusing on, or, you'll see if it's a rainy day, you might see us put hunter's boots on there, or, it's usually just about kind of what's our focus is. Or if we have events happening this weekend, we have Mascara Madness happening down in our cosmetics department, where if you buy 2 mascaras, you get 1 free. So that's kind of what we're promoting right now. So we do use a lot of social media.
Absolutely.
You have to.
You really do. It's an awesome way. Advertising doesn't cost the company anything.
Right.
A little bit of time, that's about it. You can't beat it. Anything else you can think of?
I think we've covered pretty much everything and then some.
Yeah, you've taken care of all of our questions to the fullest extent. I appreciate your time. Thank you for everything.
Yeah.
And
now, what's your degrees in?
Business management
and finance.
Okay.
So.
And where do you see yourselves going?
As of right now, I'm not too sure. I've worked in retail myself for going on 7 years now. Started off at Best Buy. Actually was the assistant manager of the Best Buy Mobile right down the way, across the hall.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did that for about a year, and then I resigned to continue my degree because working full time and trying to do it becomes a little too cumbersome. I did that. Now I'm over at Sprint, assistant manager at a store down in Raynham. It's all right. I don't know if I see myself there indefinitely after I graduate, but I'm trying to keep my options open. Just figure out, wherever the wind blows. Let's see where it takes me.
We're a great company.
Yeah. I know.
You're hiring.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Do you know? I can't remember his last name. Worked in men's shoes. Devon.
Yeah.
Ring a bell?
Yeah, he's down at our rack store downtown now.
Oh, is he?
I think so. If I'm thinking of the same
Boylston
person.
Street?
Yeah.
Yeah, taller guy. Yep. Yeah, he was a good friend of mine. He actually worked with me at the Best Buy Mobile.
Okay.
He was one of our sales associates, and then
He's
ended
been
up
gone a while.
hopping
I would say
over
he's
here.
been gone about a year.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him in a while. And Eleni had ZDs.
Yeah.
You know Eleni?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a good friend of mine as well.
She's Lenny up at. Was she here or at North Shore?
I'm pretty sure she was here.
There's an Lenny at North Shore.
Is there? I don't know if she's still here. I know she was here last Christmas because she's in Suffolk too.
Okay.
And last Christmas season, you guys kind of let her come back for like a couple weeks during the big rush, and she kind of helped out. I don't know if she's still, employed.
She might be. We so many.
With 200 people, I can imagine.
Well, we get to know. I mean, I that's one of the things. I'm a part of the training process and everything because it's important to. For me, I hate when I'm going through a time period where we have a ton of new people in the store and I don't know their names. Like that to me drives me crazy. I just want to, I know how important it is to
have a connection.
How empowering it is for me just to say your name. So, it's really important to try to have that. Well, if you guys ever need anything, let me know. I'm going to give you cards because we are hiring, and if you need to tell your friends,
definitely, we'll
send
spread the
them our
word.
way.
Job.
I don't have any on me, but I'm gonna grab some for you.
Okay. Cool.